today's topic, we shall look into the subtopic of food security perspective. So, in order to comprehend the complexity of the issue of food security, we need to understand there is a multi-dimensional approach that must be utilized, which takes into account on the first one is economic factor. Number two is politics, followed by environment, and last but not least on the society. So there are four food security perspective: economic, politics, environment, and also society. So we look into one by one. So, number one, in terms of economics perspective of food security. So, one of the major causes of hunger is poverty. So, poverty is closely related to economics. So, in order to be eliminated, so it requires an equitable, sustainable economic development, especially in terms of agriculture. So, Miss pun dah sentuh tentang agricultural sector, industry. We have we have fisheries, we have farming, we have forestry, and we have livestock industry kan. So it is estimated that 75% of those under the poverty level live in the rural communities, and mostly are small farmers. So this is explained why a point of growth in the gross domestic product, also known as GDP, is generated by the agricultural sector. So it is very effective in contribute the reduction of hunger and also poverty. So again, dekat sini dah bagi tahu dah, if we boosting our agricultural sector, it will help to reduce the poverty and also hunger rate. So compared with the same magnitude of growth generated by the manufacturing or service sector. So number one priority in order for us to sustain our food security is to make sure that our agricultural sector is being fully utilized, and followed by the manufacturing sector, and last but not least the service sector. So there are many complex and also interrelated factors that influence the agricultural quotation. So dekat sini I make it you simplified. So there are three interrelated factors that influence the agricultural quotation. So number one, in terms of demographic ataupun kita katakan pasal microeconomics lah. So kita nak tentu tentang number one factor is the demographic. So due to the increase of population, therefore there are increase in the excess of the market. So demand jadi tinggi tapi supply makin jadi rendah. Like for example oil, minyak kan. So bila kita orang kata apa, tambah populasi, ramai penduduk dalam sesuatu kawasan, so makanan tu kan, the access towards the food market semakin tinggi. However, supply semakin berkurangan kan. Contohnya bila supply semakin berkurangan, harga pun semakin meningkat. So itu adalah basic orang kata apa, principle rule of economics lah kan. Supply tinggi, demand kurang. Demand tinggi, supply pula kurang. So for example, macam kenaikan harga minyak. So factor number 2 in terms of agricultural commodities. Nombor satu tadi, faktor adalah demografi. Number 2, due to agricultural commodities. So, there will be a speculative in prices and quotations on the raw material. So, harga tu akan berubah-ubah. So sebagai contoh, grains, rice, sugar, what else? Oil, benda-benda mentah ni akan berlakunya kadar kenaikan harga lah. So harga dekat pasaran tu akan boleh di-speculate. Sebab itulah kita dekat Malaysia, kita ada satu agensi kerajaan yang dipanggil sebagai KPDNKK kan, yang akan memantau dan juga menyelia kenaikan harga barang di pasaran. So the commodity trading is increase. So betul lah kan, demand tinggi, supply kurang. So the commodity, orang kata apa, commodity trading tu akan jadi meningkatlah kerana permintaan ataupun kita kata demand tu semakin meningkat. So faktor yang ketiga, due to the demand for agricultural products. So makin lama makin orang kata apa, these agro products ataupun agricultural product ni semakin on demand lah. So high in demand for agro products that are also involved in the production of biofuel. So again, Bila orang kata apa, demand of the agro product semakin meningkat, jadinya proses biofuel tu juga meningkat. Jadi meningkat serta-merta. So kat situ dia kata kat sini apa? There is also the sharp increase in the demand for agricultural products that involve in the production of biofuels and the persistence of protectionist policy implemented by many governments which contribute to creating further strain on the market. So in order for a country to actually enforce the production of biofuels, there are many barriers. Dia ada macam-macam halangan lah, especially on the orang kata apa tadi, protectionist policy ataupun kita kata trade barriers lah. So akan ada cost dia, memakan cost yang sangat tinggi. So the causes, the causes behind the price volatility. Susah nak sebut. In agricultural prices can be located primarily in factors that determine and also influence the supply and demand of food products. Harga dan juga orang kata apa, demand tu akan dapat impak lah. Akan diberi impak menerusi harga, prices, turun naik harga tu. So out of the full range of factors, distinction must be made between the structural elements which countries and the markets are able to adapt to over the long term and also conjunctural elements. Although they only have a short term effect, it will still create a negative impact on the demand and also supply side. So you all akan tengok dekat this table, okay, kat this table. So demand sebelah kiri, supply sebelah kanan. So for example, like demand increase in income levels in the developing economies and also increase in the population of growth. So permintaan tu jadi tinggi, betul tak? Tapi supply akan jadi berkurangan due to apa? Mungkin berlakunya natural disasters. Kan, natural disasters ni adalah orang kata apa, external factors that cannot be controlled by the by one state government. So like for example kat sini dia bagi contoh drought and bad weather condition in key producing areas. Musim kemarau and then cuaca yang tidak menentu telah memberi impak kepada hasil-hasil tanaman lah. So itu merupakan salah satu contoh kata apa, the negative impact on the demand and also supply side. So moving on, kita nak tengok demand of biofuel production. Macam kita kata tadi kan, nak keluarkan agro products tu memerlukan biofuel production yang sangat tinggi, and also the demand of the low exchange rate of the dollar. So the supply the effect on the supply side is the low level of investment in agriculture and low productivity of growth. Sebab lagi satu, mungkin kita kurang this technology kan, this biofuel technology. Therefore it is a barrier for us to actually untuk convince the investor to actually to invest in our agricultural sector. Therefore bila tak ada investment, tak ada orang nak melabur dalam sektor agriculture ni, so kita punya sektor agriculture especially in the biofuels production pun menjadi turun. Growth tu jadi turun. And moving on, kita nak tengok last kali demand on the financialization of agriculture commodities. So tadilah agricultural commodity and also the low level of stocks. So the supply side, it will increase the production cost due to the higher energy prices. Betul, setiap agricultural process, tak kisahlah manufacturing, production, memerlukan orang kata apa, sumber tenaga yang sangat banyak, betul tak? So nak bila sekarang kita dengan climate change and due to globalization, so actually our non-renewable energy are very, orang kata apa, priceless, tiada harganya kan. Sukar untuk untuk dapatkan balik segala orang kata apa, sumber-sumber yang tidak boleh diperbaharui. Therefore it will cost a higher energy prices. So bukan dari segi in terms of money value, but also in terms of the effect lah kan. How the mother nature pay the price to the people kan. Macam mana kita dikata apa, bukanlah diberi tapi telah mendapat kesan lah daripada hasil tindakan kita sendiri. And last but not least, on the supply side is due to the trade barrier. So basically in Malaysia, our import, we have import prohibition and also import restriction lah. And this mostly this prohibition and also restriction actually for national security, due to our religion factor also, and last but not least due to our environmental orang kata apa, environmental concern lah. So for example, number one, in terms of national security, Malaysia government is actually prohibit drugs and also firearm lah to be import. And then in terms of in terms of religious, the government impose a high tax on the tobacco and also alcohol product kan. Tak nak bagi orang isap rokok, kurangkan kadar orang isap rokok, kurangkan kadar rakyat daripada consume alcohol product. Therefore government take action by impose a high tax lah, cukai yang sangat tinggi kepada barangan-barangan tobacco dan juga alkohol. And in terms of environmental reason ataupun environmental concerns, for example like we have JAKIM kan, authorized body that actually have the power ataupun authority lah untuk menyelia dan juga untuk mengissuekan halal certificate. So halal certification for the importation of meat, poultry are regulated through licensing and also sanitary control. So itulah kita kata dengan import prohibition and also restriction lah. So mostly this is actually how Malaysian government melaksanakanlah, enforce dia punya policy on trade. And then kalau nak tahu, actually international trade is a key contributor to our economic growth. Betul lah. So our main export actually consists of electrical and also electronic products. And then we do have export chemicals product, machinery products, electrical appliance product, and also any manufactured metals product lah. So misal kata kalau you minat untuk melabur kan, untuk invest kan, so you boleh buka bursa Malaysia, and then you boleh lah invest dekat mana-mana big company ataupun berhad company, public listed company yang orang kata apa, yang produce these kinds of metals kan, electronic, and then semiconductor, barang-barang yang macam tu lah. So barang-barang yang sebeginilah is actually our main exports kepada luar negara. In terms of natural resources pula, we do export crude oil, natural gas, and then palm oil, and also our natural rubber. So itu adalah orang kata di antara industri maupun produk yang kita ekspor ke luar negara. So salah satunya apa yang menguatkan Malaysia untuk tembus pasaran market luar negara ataupun market antarabangsa, kita join World Trade Organization. And kita juga menandatangani GATT, GATT, GATT trade agreement tu. So you all boleh tengok lah. So basically saya nak sentuh sikit pasal yang low level of stock kan. So low level stock is actually stock that are trade at a very low price and has a very low market capitalization, and they have a smaller rate exchange lah. So for example, in Malaysia kita ada timber trade. Timber trade. So in previous subtopic Miss dah ada sentuh salah satu agricultural sector yang kita bergiat aktif lah untuk exporting adalah forestry lah. So timber trade ni adalah salah satu contoh untuk trade lah. So basically trade barriers ni adalah kekangan-kekangan yang sebagaimana untuk Malaysia, kerajaan Malaysia mengawal kadar kadar kemasukan ataupun kadar import dan ekspor jugalah. So you nak tahu lebih lanjut timber trade ni, you boleh masuk dalam website, you boleh search lah kan, search ataupun browse dalam official portal website of Ministry of Trade, International Trade lah, MITI lah. So what I can conclude is that Malaysian trade policy has been to pursue efforts in creating a more liberalized and also a fair global trading environment. Moving on, we shall look into the second perspective, the political perspective of food security. So, by governance is meant by the management of political affairs of one or more countries on all levels. So, in terms of efficiency, responsibility, respect for rules, political stability, and also the well-being of the population. So, one of the primary instruments that supranational institutions should utilize is to support the countries to guarantee and also optimize the political governance. So in terms of development on agricultural and rural sector. So for example, the supranational institution like we macam saya sebut dah tadi, World Trade Organization, and then on ASEAN level we have ASEAN. Kan? So, this is to actually to improve the standards in the level of food security. So, in the developing countries, so included us lah kan, Malaysia, political governance does not always occur according to the principle that regulate political life in the Western democracy. And there are, as a result, numerous cases of dictatorship and also kleptocracy. So, walaupun kita join World Trade Organization, bagaimanapun kita punya Malaysia policy making in terms of food security tidaklah 100%. Tidaklah 100% ikut guideline that has been outlined by the World Trade Organization. Kita hanya boleh adopt dan adapt according to our national, orang kata apa, national needs lah kan. So, irrespective of individual national situation to be taken on with the targeted approaches through transfer of knowledge and know-how, ataupun kita kata think tank. So, this supranational organisation should act to support the optimization of the governance and identify the areas and the process which, orang kata apa, advantage to reform lah ataupun to make the institutional change. So walaupun kita tidaklah orang kata apa 100% lah, kita tidak 100% ikut guideline that has been outlined by W3O, World Trade Organization. However, we identify what are the areas ataupun orang kata apa, kita optimize lah kan, kita optimize apa setiap polisi yang boleh kita implementkan dekat dalam Malaysia. So one area of public intervention can be seen, for example, there is a study conducted by the World Bank show that an increase of 1 point in the GDP generated by the agricultural sector has twice effect in reducing the poverty of hunger. So tengok GDP kalau in agriculture kalau satu kata apa 1 point of GDP yang telah dikontributkan oleh agriculture sector, dia akan memberi kesan yang sangat baik lah, 2 kali ganda dalam penurunan kadar kemiskinan dan juga kadar kelaparan. Sebab itulah agriculture sector ni sangatlah penting kan, penting untuk pertumbuhan ekonomi. So therefore it would appear that one of the best levers ataupun kita kata orang kata apa ni lah, penanda aras lah for taking on the problem of malnutrition is support for government, especially of developing countries, in order to put together initiative, reform and approach to manage from the standpoint of systematic governance. So sebab itulah perlu, orang kata apa, kerajaan ni perlu mainkan peranan penting dalam memberi pendidikan tentang food security kan, supaya kita tak ada lagi dah kes-kes orang kata apa kanak-kanak terbantut akibat kurangnya zat pemakanan. So kalau tengok dalam sistem sekolah pun kita dah ada rancangan makanan khas kan. So the third perspective is on the environment lah. So the pressure exerted on the natural resources in various regions of the world is growing, as we are concerned on the most efficient usage of the land, conservation and also containment of the negative effect that ties to the process of economic development. So there are competition to exploit and also grab the natural resources. So again, inilah kita kata dengan perspektif environment on food security. So the land use competition and also contraction. Over the last 5 decades, the increase in the production of agricultural commodities was the result of an increase in the productivity. So which the use of fertilizers and also the irrigation system has increased the cultivation intensity. So maksudnya akan melibatkan komposisi tanah lah, memberi impak kepada komposisi dan juga orang kata apa, quality of the land itself. So the increase in yields required to meet the future food requirements that can only partially be met by fertilizers and irrigation system, while the expansion of the land is destined for planting risk and also jeopardize the biodiversity. So betul lah, population semakin tinggi, demand semakin tinggi, jadi supply semakin berkurangan. Jadi macam mana kita nak overcome that supply? Kita melakukan aktiviti orang kata apa, agricultural lah. So agricultural ni pula dia ada banyak proses. So salah satu prosesnya melalui fertilization and also irrigation. Ada sistem teknologi apa tu kata, percambahan biji benih kan, sistem pakai air tu semua. So this process required a lot of energy to be used kan, a lot of natural resources to be used kan. So salah satunya kita perlukan sebidang tanah, kita perlukan jumlah air yang sangat banyak. However, this activity can actually put us on the risk, put our biodiversity at a risk. So of the 13.5 billion hectares of land worldwide, currently approximately 8.3 billion ataupun equal to 61% is used for pastures and also woodlands, while only 1.6 billion are destined for agricultural use. Can you imagine? Rupanya separuh daripada orang kata apa, tanah dekat seluruh dunia ni telah digunakan untuk pastures and also woodlands. So a further 2 billion hectares are considered suitable for irrigated cultivation. However, this land is largely covered by woodland, swampland and also vegetation that allow for preservation of biodiversity and absorption of carbon dioxide. So payung bakau tu dia akan repel the water and then water tu akan back to the sea, but in a good, orang kata apa, in a good condition lah kan. Dia tak adalah macam terus-terus ombak besar. So salah satunya dekat dalam Malaysia kita boleh tengok swampland lah kan, payung bakau. So to summarize, the 90% of the growth in the future agriculture production is expected to be the result of increase in the crop yield and greater intensity of agricultural exploitations in order for us to meet the global food requirement. See? So over the coming years, in the developing countries, especially in the sub-Saharan Africa and also in Latin America. So further increase will not be possible in Asia because close to 95% of the potentially land is already used. On the last perspective, that is society ataupun societal perspective of food security. So the relationship between the food security and health is an important issue that directly involve to the community. And for example, the conditions that lead to the kata apa, impact lah towards the health is due to undernutrition and also malnutrition kan. Orang yang kurang zat pemakanan. Kalau you tengok kat situ sebelah kanan tu ada diagram tu kan, hunger, under and malnutrition, underdevelopment, lack of macro and also micronutrient. Therefore it will lead to the disease. So it will lower the immune barriers kan. They produce a greater proneness to the disease, and then they produce a greater seriousness and also the duration of disease. So jadilah disease ataupun penyakit yang berkekalan lama. So first of all we should noted that the relationship between food and also health is very bionic. Maksudnya memang related lah kan. Memang orang kata apa, memang depends to each other. So if we have ataupun if we lack of micronutrients, if we undernutrition, if we malnutrition, it can effect on our immune system. Therefore we can get a long-term disease lah kan. So the relationship actually typically associated with kurang berat badan and underweight. And then ada tu kalau you tengok macam dekat sub-Saharan African, budak-budak dia perut besar kan, kena kwashiorkor. Aduh mak, susahnya nak sebut nama penyakit tu kan. Perut buncit, kurus, and then memang mungkin tempat mereka kurang, orang kata apa, tak ada a proper waste management, tak ada proper sanitation system, tak hygiene lah. And other than that, they have difficulties kan. There are difficulties in accesses orang kata apa, drinking water kan. Bekalan air yang sangat bersih untuk diminum tak ada kan. So itulah kita kata dengan food security and health. So dealing with this problem, dealing with this human health is actually sangat orang kata apa, sangat makan masa dan juga sangat susah kan. So the possibility of wiping out the disease without taking the issue on nutrition and also food security is short-sighted. Maksudnya kalau you tak ambil tahu tentang you punya nutrisi kan, you tak ada education on nutrition, therefore dia hanyalah sia-sia sahaja. Sebab kita pun kata tadi, betul tak, human health and also food security is by unique. Maksudnya memang depend to each other. So in a forecast that is anything in the world, this is conducted by the World Food Program lah kan. They estimated that 100 people is defined as in a condition of under malnutrition. And only 10% are due to temporary shock situation. So temporary shock situation ni mungkin disebabkan faktor-faktor luaran lah, sepertinya musim kemarau, ada epidemic, contohnya macam dekat Sub-Saharan South Africa, mungkin due to civil war kan. Bila ada peperangan, bekalan makanan tu sukar untuk didapati. So in this situation kan, contohnya macam woman, basically macam kalau you tengok dekat medan perang kan, women and children lah, biasanya golongan wanita dan kanak-kanak are the most orang kata apa, affected lah, affected by this malnutrition punya issues. Firstly, because on the general level because they are physically resistant to hunger and disease, especially children. Kanak-kanak lah kan, kalau tak makan 2 hari dah kurus. Sebab kenapa? Kanak-kanak ni memerlukan zat-zat and also nutrients yang sangat penting kan untuk tumbesaran mereka. Jadinya bila berlakunya civil war, bila berlakunya musim kemarau, berlakunya epidemik, pandemik, bila tak ada bekalan makanan yang orang kata apa, yang memenuhi kehendak ataupun keperluan badan, jadi kanak-kanak ni lah akan, orang kata apa, golongan kanak-kanak lah yang akan terlebih dahulu kan, terlebih dahulu akan mendapat penyakit.